In my 20s, I worked in many shops. My job was simple: put stuff on shelves. But then, I took a job at a pet store, a job that made me go to different shops in a van. Every day, I loaded the van with boxes and drove to stores to fill their shelves. It was okay, but I had to work until midnight, sometimes even later. The overtime paid well, but it messed up my normal life. One night, it was 11 p.m. and I was heading to the last store. I knew I wouldn't get back to the warehouse until 1 a.m. These pet shops closed at 9 p.m., so I was always alone. There was a little dock in the back where I parked my van. I'd roll the boxes in on a dolly. I unlocked the door and brought in 3 big stacks of boxes. I was placing boxes in their aisles when I heard a small noise from the front of the store. I stopped and listened, but then I kept working. Working alone in quiet stores at night was sometimes spooky, but I'd gotten used to it. You hear strange sounds like the air conditioning turning on and off. I figured it was just one of those sounds. As I kept working, I was about halfway done when I heard a clear cough from the front. My heart raced, and I froze. No one was supposed to be here. If they didn't have bad plans, they'd have said something when I came in. I waited for a minute, but there was silence again. I started to walk quietly toward the back door. Once outside, I locked it, feeling safer. I grabbed my phone to call 911, but just as I did, I heard fast footsteps and the door handle jiggling from the inside. The door had a key lock, so they couldn't open it, but it was terrifying, and my adrenaline surged. Then, the person began banging loudly on the door, maybe even kicking it. They started yelling and pleading, but there was anger and rage in their voice. I didn't answer and called the police. While I was on the phone, the person cursed, kept hitting the door, and tried to open it aggressively. When the operator said the police were coming, I started my van and moved farther away from the door. I should have just driven away to stay safe, but I wanted to make sure the person didn't escape before the police arrived. Luckily, they came quickly. I met them at the door, which was now keyed, and gave them the key. 3 officers went in, and a few minutes later, they came out with a man in handcuffs. They found a big knife on him, but nothing else. The strangest part of this whole thing, and what I think about the most, is that the man was hiding in the store with a knife but didn't steal anything. I'd never seen him before, so I didn't know why he'd want to harm me. That might be the only explanation, and it's scary to think I could have been just a few feet away from something terrible. But at least now, I don't have to worry about his true intentions. Once upon a time, I got a job as a police officer a few months ago. For the first year, I had to work overnight shifts, 3 12-hour shifts a week. It was really tough because the scariest things usually happen at night. I've been on the job for only 3 months, and I already have a chilling story to tell. It happened one night when I was patrolling my route. It was about 2 or 3 in the morning, and there were no cars on the road. Most of my route was dark because our town had lots of forests. But then there was one brightly lit street called Warren Street. It was one of the only streets with streetlights. All the stores were closed at this hour, so not much was happening. I turned onto Warren Street from a quieter road and drove slowly. I kept an eye on both sides of the road to see if anything unusual was going on in the parking lots. As I passed a coffee shop's parking lot, I noticed something strange. The coffee shop's lights were on, which was really odd because it always closed at 6 p.m. on weekdays. I knew this because I was a regular customer, and even knew the owner personally. I parked my car by the curb and decided to check the coffee shop. I wondered why the lights were on at 3 a.m. I opened the heavy glass door, and my voice echoed in the empty coffee shop, which was quite eerie. I kept calling the owner's name, but there was no response. Then, I heard a noise coming from the basement. I didn't even know the coffee shop had a basement until that moment. I found a door that led downstairs into the darkness. I had a flashlight on my belt, so I turned it on and pointed it down the stairs. I knew I had to investigate, even though I was scared. At the bottom of the stairs, I looked around the dark basement. I could only see a narrow beam of light from my flashlight. Suddenly, I heard the strange sound again, but this time it was much louder. It was like a weird mix of mechanical and organic sounds, hard to describe. It seemed to be coming from an air vent in the corner of the room. I walked cautiously toward the sound, which seemed to be inside the vent. I even put my ear up to it, and I could swear I heard someone breathing. My heart raced even faster. I tried to shine my flashlight into the vent, but the grill blocked the light. Desperate to see inside, I pressed one eye up to the vent grill while angling the flashlight differently. At that moment, I saw a gloved hand just inches from my face. I quickly unholstered my gun and shouted for the person inside to come out. But the vent was still screwed shut, and I could hear the person moving away through the vents until the sound disappeared completely. I called for backup, and we searched the place thoroughly. We even called the owner, who arrived at 4 a.m. to help us. Strangely, there were no signs of breaking and entering. Not a single unscrewed vent or broken window. Our investigation didn't last long, and we couldn't find any trace of the person who had been in the vents. The scariest part for me was not just the person in the vent, but the strange sounds that came from there. The breathing and the eerie noises were enough to give anyone the creeps. To this day, I still wonder where that vent led to and why that person was in there. It's a mystery that haunts me. I used to work for a cleaning company, and I remember this one office building that I had to clean. It was a nighttime job, and I liked it because there was no traffic. It was just me in the building. This office building had 3 floors. I had a checklist of things to do, and then I could go home. When I got there, it was dark, and I started on the first floor. I needed to vacuum, clean bathrooms, and do some other cleaning. It would take about 2 hours. After finishing the first floor, I went up to the second. About 20 minutes into working, I heard the elevator. It was moving, going up to the 3rd floor. I was the only one supposed to be there. I got worried, but I didn't know why someone else would be there at that time. I didn't want to investigate, so I went back to cleaning. I finished vacuuming and cleaned the bathrooms. Then, when I was cleaning an office window, I heard noises from the same floor. My heart raced, but I couldn't see where the noises were coming from. I kept working, but then I heard more noises. I couldn't focus on my work anymore. I decided to go see where the noises were coming from. Maybe there was a good reason for them. I walked over, and at first I didn't see anything. But then I heard the noise again, louder this time. I saw a man running from behind a wall and going down a hallway. I only saw him for a few seconds, and I didn't get a good look, but I knew he shouldn't be there. I went to the stairwell, and when I opened the door, it was empty. The man must have gone up or down. I yelled at him to leave, or I'd call the police. After that, I heard a door open and shut on the first floor. I thought he was leaving, so I waited in the stairwell for a few minutes before going back to finish my work on the 2nd floor. It didn't take long, and then I moved to the 3rd floor. I followed the same routine, and everything was going well. I didn't hear any noises, and I thought the man had left. But then, when I was almost done on the 3rd floor, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, and I saw the man. I don't know how he got back up there so quickly. I didn't have time to think. I ran for the stairs, and I heard him chasing me. He was only 1 flight of stairs behind me. I sprinted down to the 1st floor and ran outside to my work truck. I called the police and my boss. I waited until the police came and went inside. They came out with the man about 10 minutes later. I'm really glad they caught him. I've thought about what might have happened if he had caught up with me. It was a scary experience, and I'm just glad I got away.